All right, Nick, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a team coming into last week. You look at them, and it is very, very disappointing coming off of a 3-game losing streak. This is a team where you start questioning stuff. You start trying to pick things apart. This is a team that could very easily have come apart at the seams. But they come in, Nick, against a very tough defensive opponent and a divisional opponent in the Denver Broncos, one of the best, probably the top defense in the NFL right now. And they got out a huge win over a tough divisional opponent in the Denver Broncos. And this is an emotional win. This is a big, big, big time win for the Raiders, Nick. And you have a story just talking about how much this meant to the team and what kind of win this was for them. But in the comments below, Nick, I want to ask the Raiders fans, this is a team that, maybe they start to come together a little bit at the end of the season, but there's still a few holes on this team. And I got to know, if you could pick one player from another team in the NFL to add to this Raiders squad to kind of bolster your ranks, who would it be? What player from another team in the NFL would you add to this Raiders squad right now to make them a better team? Let us know in the comments below. But Nick, tell us this Raiders story.
Yeah, so I want to go back to last year a little bit. Obviously, when Gruden was fired, Versace was the interim, and they found a way to make a playoff run. Obviously, a lot of the credit was given to Derek Carr for being the glue guy to keep that together. Now, this season, like you mentioned, it's been a tough go of it so far this season, and a lot of blame has fallen on Derek Carr, also Coach McDaniels as well, but a lot of it, in some cases, rightly so, in some cases, wrongly so, has fallen on Derek Carr. And there's been a lot of reports in the media and all the pundits and all the talking heads on TV that Derek Carr has lost the locker room, the team no longer respects him, and so on and so forth. Well, according to RaidersBeat.com, Derek Carr, after leading this overtime victory, of course, throwing the game-winning touchdown pass to Davante Adams to give the Raiders the win over division rival Denver, Derek Carr had an emotional speech in the locker room in which, after the game, all his teammates surrounded him and chanted his initials, DC, 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 in celebration, showing their support and kind of the bond this team has together. And now, why does this matter, Mize? It's because obviously the Raiders this season most likely won't end in them going to the playoffs unless they pull off something ridiculous. But they have McDaniels. They're hoping he's their long-term guy. Obviously, they wouldn't bring him in if they didn't. But now they got to figure out who is going to be around for this, new generation of Raiders after the season. Who's going to make up the core? I think Max Crosby is special. They locked up Davante Adams. I think guys like that are going to be around. The question is whether Derek Carr is that guy or not. I don't know if he is or not. And right now, my feeling is he's much closer to being for the Raiders what Alex Smith was for the Kansas City Chiefs, as the glue guy, the savvy veteran, the guy who kind of steadies the ship, who keeps things going. Because people forget, before Andy Reid and Alex Smith showed up to the Chiefs a few years ago, they were terrible, dumpster fire. Smith goes there, he kind of steadies the ship. They go from terrible to solid. Eventually, they build a core group together. They finally get Mahomes, and they take off like a rocket ship. I think Derek Carr has the potential to be that guy, just his ability as a leader. It's kind of just the glue guy who keeps that locker room together. We saw it in their celebration after the win. I think he has the potential to be that guy for the Raiders. I don't know if he's the long-term franchise quarterback, but he's definitely the glue guy. What are your thoughts on Derek Carr and the Raiders, just how that's going to shake out both this year and just long-term?
Yeah, and I think you bring up some great points because
As
even
I always do, Mize.
always
Do.
always, no point has been greater than today, as in history. But you bring up a good point in the Andy Reid, Alex Smith comparison, because any Chiefs fan will tell you, I'm sure Raiders fans know as well, being in the same division, that the reason Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback that he is today is because he had the foundation of Alex Smith in the locker room. He's such a great mentor, such a great leader, and that is exactly who Derek Carr reminds me of. He's a good guy. He's a great leader. He's a good mentor, and he's a pretty decent player, Nick. So, he's a guy that, if you get the next guy in the draft, so if you draft the next Patrick Mahomes, so to speak, in this Chiefs analogy that we're going off of, Derek Carr is a guy that if he gets put on the trade block, another team's going to pick him up in a second. There's tons of teams that would love to have a guy like Derek Carr out there. And I think for the Raiders team, he is going to be an invaluable piece. Now, Nick, I think Derek Carr is a very good player. I think, like I said, tons of teams would try to pick him up if he was available on the market. But I don't think that he is going to elevate this team. I think he is elevating you in leadership. I think he's elevating you as a locker room guy. But his play isn't going to be the elevating factor of this team. So I think that maybe when they go into the draft, they can find a younger, more athletic, more talented quarterback. But Carr is going to be a huge part of developing that guy and trying to bring this team into the future. But I don't want to underestimate or undervalue how important Carr is to this team and how important he will be going through the future. But like you said, that's my thoughts on Carr. I think he's a super important piece of this team, but I kind of think he's, like you said, the stepping stone piece. He's the Alex Smith to the Patrick Mahomes, and hopefully the Raiders in the next few drafts do get their Patrick Mahomes next.
Yeah, and to that point, I just checked a few mock drafts. Again, it's way too early. Obviously, the season's still going on, but I did have CJ Stroud was linked to the Raiders on a number of mock drafts in the top 6, top 5, top 6 range. So again, potentially for that kind of thing to happen. I know a lot of money's been allocated to Derek Carr. The way that contract is structured, they could move off of him after next year pretty easily. It just seems very similar to an Alex Smith situation. So again, Raiders fan, enjoy the win. It's always great to beat a division rival, especially on the road. You've got a glue guy, a great leader in Derek Carr. He'll build this team up, steady the ship, but keep an eye on the future because I think the franchise quarterback, your Pat Mahomes, potentially could be coming soon.